I've always felt at home on the open road, but traveling 1,500 miles during a pandemic can really put a damper on the excitement of a solo road trip. I hadn't left my shotgun Airbnb for almost 70 days, and I was having anything I needed delivered and would obsessively wipe down all of my groceries and any packaging they came in. I only ordered pizza twice, the first time triggering an anxiety attack so severe I couldn't sleep all night, worrying that I had ingested this new mysterious disease and would surely die alone in the middle of the country. The second time, I was so desperate for bread and cheese that I didn't have the mental energy to worry about it. I shared a wall and a porch with my neighbor, Carolyn, an 80-year-old ex-concert violinist who lived for coffee table art books and her rescue cat, Jeremy. Whenever I heard her gardening, I would pop my head outside and ask how she was doing. We saw very little of each other and always at a distance of at least 6 feet. We did have wine one night on the front patio 2 days before I left. We both got a little tipsy and talked about how marriage was always a mistake, giggling through the irrationality of it all. And we shared ghost stories and talked about our fears of dying. I even told her a little bit about Shirley. It was nice, but it was bittersweet. "Oh, I don't want you to leave," she said. "What if I die in the middle of the night? No one will know, except Jeremy, of course. And my plans." She laughed through her fears, but somehow it made them more possible. The absurdity of life is what makes it all manageable, I suppose. But the painful injustices make the absurdity all the more cruel. Keep pushing the boulder, I thought. It'll get easier. If you just had to keep starting over and it isn't possible for anything else to ever happen, you learn to just expect the boulder to fall, right? It hurts a little less. Such is death. I sat up most of the evening in the dark, trying to wrap my head around the ever-present fear of the unknown that's been sitting with the world since March. We listen to statistics about pop-up morgues and collectively dream about maggots, crying ourselves to sleep to quiet our obsessive thoughts of constant loss. And yet somehow we're just supposed to keep living. The morning I left, I was up by 4:30 and on the road by 5. I hadn't driven in over 2 months, and I hadn't seen anything of the outside world except what was being posted online. I had run out of patience for my things, leaving my car solidly packed and oddly sorted. I didn't have it in me to care anymore. Nothing was color-coded. My clothes were shoved wherever they could fit, with no regard to where they belonged. It was still dark, but I had the guiding light of Google Maps to get me out the door and on the freeway, and hot coffee at the ready and a 70s playlist for the road. The sun came up as I approached the Mississippi border. The landscape rapidly shifted from swampy bayou to dense forests to churches in trailers decorated with banners promoting gun rights and damning abortions. Confederate flags flew on the porch of every home, and my stomach lurched. Please, God, do not let me die here. Let me at least make it across the border to Connecticut. The sky got brighter, and then dark and gray, and it rained on and off for hundreds of miles, rinsing the smears of oversized bugs from my windshield, before streaks of orange striped the sky, the cover of a children's Bible in a doctor's office waiting room. All you had to do was turn to your left or right to find the missing block lettering. God is good, the reckoning is coming, are you ready, heaven or hell, you decide. The grammar was all over the place, and the capitalization of the letters was as inconsistent as the font choices. Instead of frightening me, it actually kind of helped me feel at peace with my lack of connection to religion, because, listen, I might not make it into heaven, but at least I could spell. A giant green sign that read, "Sweet Home, Alabama," welcomed me across the next invisible border. Pressed metal reminders were spaced out evenly every few miles on the freeway, encouraging people not to litter, reading, "Keep Alabama the Beautiful." I wanted to write a letter of some kind, explaining the difference between a clever turn of phrase and nonsense, but decided I was too young to start writing letters that would never be read. I stopped for gas around noon. No one wore masks, despite the statewide or the worldwide ordinance. And not even considering my cherry red car, my California plates and shrouded face was the equivalent to wearing a giant eco-friendly sign around my neck that said, "Proud Democrat." Thankfully, my Bernie Sanders sticker was safely covered on the inside of my sun visor. Or I might have been burned at the stake for wanting to ruin America with my socialistic tendencies. Sorry, that one always cracks me up. I spent the rest of the day driving through Georgia, Tennessee, and into Virginia. The yellow lines on the road were the only thing that kept me grounded in reality. Hours vanished into tomorrows, and within a moment, I had crossed another invisible line that stole another hour from me all at once. Time had already become nothing more than an unreliable way to measure the breaths we spent awake, and yet here I was, dabbling in time zones. When I finally stopped for the night, I filled my arms with anything valuable from my car, waddled inside the hotel, rode up 4 floors in the elevator, adjusting bags like babies on my hips, and played the room key game where you try to slide the card in and push the door open with one hand before it relocks itself, before dropping all of my things in a pile on the floor and flopping onto the bed in exhaustion. 13 hours on the road. 6 hours before I had to get up again and head back out. I turned on the air conditioner full blast in an attempt to cool off after a 90-degree, 90% humidity drive through the South. I peeled off my clothes, stretched my arms in every direction, the muscles deep in the rotation of my shoulders ached from gripping the wheel for so long, minorly adjusting to keep my 3,000-pound hunk of metal in its designated lane. I took a scalding hot shower, trying to soothe the tension from the depths of my shoulder blades and quell the anxiety of picking up this deadly airborne disease by just burning away the top few layers of skin. No disinfectant seemed to be enough. I must fry the living organisms crawling on me and let them peel, slough them away with overly bleached washcloths and watch them swirl away into the bowels of the hotel drainage system beneath my toes. I laid out the clothes for the next day, put away my toiletries, and set an alarm for 4:30 a.m. I climbed under the covers and fell asleep instantly. The vibration of my alarm buzzed against the plastic-coated, fake wood-covered particle board housing a King James Bible, and I sat up with the depressing realization that I was still alive in this nightmarish reality. And like clockwork, by 4:58 a.m., I was sitting behind my steering wheel once again, staring blankly out a windshield with unfamiliar skylines sprinkled with touchstones of the world before. A giant yellow shell, green neon lettering that read Holiday Inn, and pink and orange bubble letters that encouraged Americans to eat more donuts and drink more coffee. At least I could count on giant corporations to keep me from drowning in an ocean of newness. Never in my life did I think that million-dollar branding would be the anchor that kept me tethered to the comfort of life before quarantine, but there we were, dawn-kissed sky, familiar glowing logos, and me venturing once more across state lines and ever-changing landscapes. About an hour into New Jersey, I started seeing mileage signs for New York City. I was so close. I was supposed to be driving into Manhattan and moving into my new little apartment. I was supposed to be going swing dancing and seeing Patti LuPone in Company on Broadway and strolling through Central Park and learning how to take the subway to and from work at a big publishing company downtown. Instead, I was watching the Empire State Building bathe in glittery sunlight from the George Washington Bridge over the Hudson. I was running low on gas and had to navigate my way through Yonkers, lost in the what-ifs of a better timeline, to the nearest gas station. I hooked my mask over my ears, filled up one last time, and got back on the freeway. I knew I had crossed into New England by the abundance of bumper stickers hopeful of Democratic presidential candidates that never made it past the primaries. I felt like I was surrounded by tenured English professors, currently just working from home, just out for like a quick little jaunt to Whole Foods for a non-dairy milk product, and I don't know, just a little something salty to snack on. My shoulders fell. My hidden Bernie Sanders sticker and I were finally part of the scenery. I romanticized about the idea of running away to Cape Cod for a weekend, or even the Catskills or Coney Island. I couldn't keep living in this perpetual state of numbness, constantly reminding myself that the world canceled all its plans and was grounded until further notice. Once I got to Woburn, I rolled down the windows to feel the crisp, clean air, and it smelled like a Hallmark Channel movie. Crunchy leaves, herbal tea, warm lemon cookies, and yacht club members named like Tag and Hunter. I carried in the bare minimum to get me through the first night and left the rest in the car. I ordered pizza that night and sat on my new porch sipping red wine, already homesick for the thunderstorms that had lulled me to sleep those past 3 months.